Hello and welcome to the Great American Baking Couple. My name is Alex.
And my name is Melannie. With two N's.
With two N's. And what we're going to be doing is we are starting a series where we go from series or season 1, episode 1, all the way through to the last episode in season 7 of the Great British Bake Off, or as you guys might know it, the Great British Baking Show from Netflix. And we're going to go straight from season 1 technical, season 1 episode 1 technical, do all the technicals through season 7. This is the first episode and it is Victoria Sponge. What we're going to be doing, I'm going to go with a non-vegan version. She's going to make her vegan version. We're going to taste test them at the end and figure out who does better. And we're going to give you guys the recipes that we use along the way so you can follow along and make it at home. So, hope you guys enjoy. We're going to get right into baking. Peace!
Okay, so for my recipe, you're going to need dairy-free margarine, or in my case, buttery spread, vanilla, dairy-free yogurt, lemon that I didn't even use, sugar, self-rising flour, which we made ourselves, or I made it basically, and soy milk. For my jam, I used raspberries, some sugar, and a lemon. I actually used it. And for my buttercream, that same buttery spread and powdered sugar. And a lemon. And yeah, I preheated the oven to 350 and hit myself. I started by greasing my pans with canola oil cooking spray. And yeah, I don't know if I should have did that. We'll find out later. But yeah, I greased them both. And I started by not reading the recipe and adding my buttery spread. Adding my soy yogurt. And adding my sugar. You were not supposed to add the yogurt first. I did because I'm an idiot. But I started by mixing it in the KitchenAid. I think I had it at a 4. Not sure, but I increased the speed. It turned into a nasty, gloopy, curdled mess. I was kind of gagging internally at this. I think Alex was also gagging internally at this. And I think it's because of the dairy-free spread that I used. Do not use that. Use like Earth Balance or something. Earth Balance doesn't separate like that. It does, but not as much. It looks really gross. It looks like curdled milk kinda. And yeah, we don't mess with that. But now I am adding my soy milk and hitting the camera. I'm also adding 4 tablespoons of flour because the recipe says you can add flour if it's becoming a little bit curdled. In my case, a lot curdled. And I started slowly folding my flour in. I am very delicate about my folding. I'm picky about my folding, but at this stage it was kind of lumpy, so I just kept folding and folding and scraping. And I added more of my flour, which I probably should have sifted, but I didn't. And there is a closer up. Still folding. Still folding. I'm proud of my folding skills though. Still lumpy. And here I am, sped up, still folding. Takes a while, but you don't want to knock out any of the air that was in there. That's why you whip up your butter and your sugar before you add anything else. And now is where I start to spread it between my 2 tins. Luckily, my recipe called for 20 to 22 centimeter tins, which is about 9 inches, which is what we have. And hi Alex, you're in the bowl. And I just spread them as much as I could, since you can't do that hack where you bang them because you'll lose all the air. Still spreading them, you know, Gotta make them look nice and flat so you can stack them. And here, hi Pizza Stone. Here I am putting them both in the oven. Really, here I am gonna put the timer for 20 minutes. It took way longer than that, but here I am starting on my raspberry jam. Washed raspberries. Yep. There's me washing raspberries because I'm cool. And then I didn't feel like dirtying the 1 cup thing, measuring cup. So I just did half a cup 4 times to get 2 cups. So my recipe called for mashing the raspberries and getting them to a full boil before adding the sugar. So here I'm still mashing them and I'm turning up the heat. And there they are boiling. Here I am adding my 2 cups of sugar. And here I am adding the lemon. By the way, a seed got in there. I still have some of that jam, and the seed is still in there. So it's pretty cool. And there were some points where it looked like it was gonna boil over, but it worked out in the end. I'd say it took me about 10 minutes. Literally 2 cups of both raspberries and sugar. And I checked on my cakes. They were not done. Nope. Decided to put them back. And I also turned up the heat to 356, which helped. Here I am putting my jam to cool. Didn't cover it, put it in the fridge. I'd say I put it in there for about, say 30 minutes. Hi chickpeas. And here are my cakes actually going out. They look nice and golden, which is pretty rare for vegan baking, as I've experienced. I tried to bang them. They wouldn't come out, so I let them cool for a little bit, but here I am actually taking them out. Actually, I was wrong. Here I am. Nope, still struggling. Still struggling. And a satisfying plop. And there it is. Voila. And here's the second one, and it came out, except that. I don't really like that, but I'm a perfectionist. So here I am starting on my buttercream. Started by zesting lemon. Adding my horrible buttery spread and adding my sifted powdered sugar, which is important. I started by whipping them and forming a powdered sugar cloud, which is always great, and still whipping them. Here I am starting to decorate my cakes. My jam set perfectly, but I was starting to worry because my jam was kind of still a little warm and my buttercream was watery. Yeah, watery. But it spread perfectly, tastes really good. And here is my failed buttercream. Use Earth Balance again. Please, for the love of God, use Earth Balance. It just didn't work out. And the top of my cake kind of cracked, but appearance-wise, it looks good. And here I am sprinkling my sugar, my powdered sugar. I could have used the sifter, but I decided not to do it by hand because I'm lazy and I didn't feel like drying the sifter again. So there's that. I swear my hands are clean though. And there it is. Ta-da!
For my recipe, you're going to need eggs, unsalted butter, sugar, flour, and baking powder. Now for the jam, you're going to need raspberries and sugar, and for the buttercream, you're going to need butter and powdered sugar. Start off by cracking 4 eggs into your KitchenAid mixing bowl or your mixing bowl that you're going to use with your hand mixer. Add 225 grams of sugar, 225 grams of sifted self-rising flour, make sure when you're sifting you get everything in, get all those little particulates out, because if you don't, sometimes they get all gelled together. You're also going to add 225 grams of butter. That's the beauty of this recipe of Mary Berry's. It's all really simple. It's 225 grams of everything and 4 eggs. The one thing that I would note here, and what you're seeing that I'm doing, is that you should really hand mix this with a spoon first before you throw it in the mixer. If you don't, you're going to end up with a plume of flour and it's going to throw your recipe off a little bit. Also, during the mixing process, you're probably going to have to, at a couple of points, take the mixer up and clear off the whisk, because as you can see here, it kind of all gets gelled together on the whisk and spins. As you mix it, and you mix it more and more increasingly, you'll notice that it starts to separate from the whisk and actually stay mixing, and that's just because all the ingredients are incorporating. I did forget the baking powder on this one, 1 teaspoon of it in addition to what I've already given you for the recipe. And after a while, it should start to look like this. You can turn up the speed on your KitchenAid to about 6 or 8, and really right here is just before it was fully incorporated. Make sure to get anything that you had off of your whisk and get them into your tins, which you should always grease or butter first. Here I used butter. But try to spread it evenly and separate it evenly. If you wanted to be really exact about it, you could measure it out by weight. But you just do your best to eyeball it, spread them out on the tins, and level them off. And then when you get everything nice and leveled off, you're going to throw them into your oven. And your oven is going to be at 350 degrees, and you're going to bake for 25 minutes. Or I guess technically the Celsius is, when you do the math, it's technically 356 degrees Fahrenheit, but I had mine at 350 and it didn't make much of a difference. For your jam, you're going to use 2 cups, approximately, I believe it's 200 grams of raspberries, and you're going to use 250 grams of sugar. Mash your raspberries, put them in the pot, mix it all together as it heats up. Then once it's heated, stir occasionally. Now, I made a mistake here. I over-baked these by about 3 minutes. When it says 25 minutes, trust me, just go for 25 minutes unless you take out your spokes there or your toothpick and it's still gelled on there. Don't bake it any longer because you'll overcook it. For your buttercream, you're going to add 100 grams of unsalted butter, which you're going to leave out prior to make sure that it's soft. And then you're going to add half of 200 grams of icing sugar first. And icing sugar, for those of you who don't know, is just powdered sugar. And then once that's all incorporated and it looks like it's buttercream, you're going to add your other 100 grams of powdered sugar and a teaspoon of milk. And at the end, it should look something like that. It shouldn't really move. Yeah, this is the part that I hate to watch. I flipped them out too early. Make sure they're cooled. Otherwise, you're going to end up with this mess, which is it's not ideal at all. It fell apart when I tried to flip it out. I either overcooked it or tried to flip them too early, or I did a combination of the both. So just make sure that your pan under the cake is completely cooled before you try to take it out. Yeah, this is maddening. That one wasn't as bad, but it's still pretty bad. And I made it worse when I tried to pick it up. Do your best to just slide it off onto a plate instead of trying to pick it up by hand, especially if it's not fully cooled yet. In reality, you should probably just let it fully cool. After leaving your jam in the fridge for about 30 minutes to 35 minutes, go ahead and take it out, spread it over your bottom layer. Try to get it as even as you can and out to the edges. Mine was a little bit thick, but it was pretty good. When you take it off of the heat, you want to make sure it's at least starting to gain a thicker consistency. Next, add your buttercream into a piping bag and start squeezing it out in small circles. I had a little less buttercream than I needed for this one. I needed a bit more. If you're able to find a 7-inch baking tin, then you should be good to go with my recipe. If you have a 9 like I did, you might want to add an extra 50 grams of the butter and an extra 100 grams of the icing sugar. Getting to the end here, just about done decorating. Really, the buttercream turned out fantastic. Nice and thick, stayed together, tasted really, really good. Everything was well incorporated. There just quite wasn't enough to fully fill this thing. So I had to fill in the gaps with a spatula in the middle, but as far as presentation goes, it was already ruined by the broken cakes. When you're done adding your buttercream and you're happy, go ahead and flip the other cake on. Hopefully yours doesn't look like mine did at this point. And then when you're all done getting your cake on there and putting it together, grab some powdered sugar, dust it over the top, cover any of those imperfections like I try to do here, and your cake is ready to be served. Enjoy! So aside from the cracked top and fallen apart, completely dead bottom, the cake actually doesn't look that bad. Like, granted, the main key point is there to keep the sponges intact, but buttercream was good, jam was fantastic, it was a great cake.
And here's my failure of a cake. It's kind of not a failure, but that buttercream though, not good looking, but tasted fine, I think.
So here we are trying our cakes. Melanie's goes first. What did you think was the most difficult part of making these?
I would say the mess, sharing one kitchen, sharing the exact same supplies. But yeah, my cake, yay!
Yeah, what you don't see here is the 4 hours plus that it took for us both to make these, because we had to take turns, and the 3 full sinks worth of dishes. Melanie gets a good slice out here because her cake actually stayed together.
My face.
That's a beautiful face right there.
I got scared. As you can see, some of the filling came out.
Yeah, her buttercream just turns into soup.
I fixed it with my finger though, so that's good. So here I am tasting it.
I thought your cake was moist. It was better than mine. My cake was it had a crumb to it. But
my face says otherwise. I just look like I hate everything. Kind of like Mary Berry.
but for a vegan cake, it tasted like a cake. It didn't taste like there were vegan substitutes in it, which is what was surprising to me. The buttercream was definitely off. The jam I thought was better, probably because the lemon balanced out the sweetness, because mine was really sweet when we tried mine. But it was good.
Also, please excuse our background mess.
We just moved. Well, kind of, but we're still working things out on the move. So there's a huge mess. Now we try mine. The San Andreas fault line running through the middle, all the way through the cake and under. The buttercream, though.
It was good. The laughing point for me is the fact that your buttercream sticks out in some parts of your cake, but not the others.
I didn't have enough buttercream.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Because of the 9-inch tin versus the 7-inch tin recipe. That's one hell of a mouthful. Beautiful.
Yep, that's an attractive face.
Beautiful. It was good. I thoroughly enjoyed both. I liked your cake better. I liked my filling better.
I liked my jam better. I'm sorry.
Well, your jam was pretty good. I'm a sucker for the sweetness, though.
I don't like sweet jams. I like tart jams. That's why I added lemon juice.
Watch your face. Watch your face. Too sweet.
I'm just like Mary Berry. Everything looks gross.
Bye.
Bye.